In the heart of the zoo here in Entebbe. My name is Philip Katablao. I work here at the center, but I'll be your moderator for this beautiful session today, as together we celebrate the World Chimpanzee Day. This day was celebrated officially world over yesterday. And share the expertise and knowledge about chimpanzee conservation, but also we'll learn a little more about how we as humans need to coexist. The theme for this year's celebration that we are focusing on, the theme for the discussion here at the center, is human chimpanzee coexistence amidst exponential human population growth. And I will leave my panel to dig deep into this and unpack it for you. I know when you hear words like exponential, some of you might be worried, but these are simple words that we'll be able to unpack. Let me start by asking my beautiful panel to introduce themselves one at a time, and then we'll move further into the discussion.
Thank you. Dr. Mbabazi Rachel. I manage the Animal and Culture Department at Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center.
Thank you. My name is David Musingo, the manager for Education and Information Department at Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rovia Asili, and I'm a senior permit keeper here at Alay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Mirembe Dan. I am a senior permit keeper, and I head the permit section. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Now that we know the panel that we have here today, and I've told you the theme is really focusing on chimpanzee coexistence with humans and amidst human population growth, which is exponential. Exponential being that this is an ever-increasing growth. I want to bring in my very senior zookeeper here, animal keeper, who has worked tirelessly with chimpanzees here, Mr. Dan Mirembe. You did introduce yourself briefly. Tell me what your job entails here, but also why are we choosing to celebrate World Chimpanzee Day as you were in Television?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Philip, and all the viewers that are listening to us right here from the Wildlife Conservation Center. We work with the primates, to be very specific, with the chimpanzees. It's one of the greatest opportunities that I thank God for. We have been evolving into the rescue and the rehabilitation of the chimpanzees. The work has been at the height of rescue and rehabilitation of these chimpanzees, and we currently have 24 chimpanzees, of which 99 of them have been rescued. Now, coming back to the theme that my colleague talked about, human chimpanzee coexistence amidst exploration and population growth. The work is joining the rest of the world to celebrate this day. On 14th of July in 1960, some of the renowned primatologists, led by Dr. Jane Goodall, they thought it wise to celebrate, conserve, and then also appreciate the role of our closest cousins play in a critical ecosystem. And that's the reason why we are here. Now, coming back to the aspect of exponential human population growth vis-a-vis the population of the chimpanzees. In Uganda, we have 5 chimpanzees. From the recent population census of Uganda, we are over 45 million million Ugandans. Now, the growth rate of Ugandans is at 3.2%. So every year Uganda has an addition of 3.2%, which is equivalent to 1,300,000 people. The 1,300,000 people, they need 14 square kilometers of land for settlement. Where is this land going to come from? You and I know land does not increase in size. So the principle of dynasty applies to survive for the fittest. The chimpanzees will be hosted out and humans will take over the habitation for the chimpanzees. So that's why we as Uganda Rehabilitation Center came up with this thing to cast more light on how we can coexist with the chimpanzees. So for now, back to you, Mr. Philip.
Thank you, Dan. You mentioned something that is critical. Population of humans is steadily rising. And you say right now we have about 5,000 chimpanzee individuals in the country. And I'm wondering, how do we then manage to convince the ordinary person out there? I am struggling to find land to settle. And, you know, growing up, there was adequate land. You would find people are able to share and graze and have a lot of space around. Now it's becoming very difficult because what you just said, increasing population, exponential. It's not going back, it's just going up. And I'm wondering, I will bring in Mr. Msingo here. How do we ensure that the population appreciate the magnitude of the challenge, and so that even when we have to utilize the land to ourselves, we also have to give opportunity to wildlife, in this case, the chimpanzees. Mr. Msingo, you are working with the Education and Information Department. How do we help people with their mindset? How do we ensure that they appreciate the magnitude of the challenge and accept to coexist with these chimpanzees?
Thank you, Philip. First of all, we have to thank God for giving us this beautiful country, Uganda. Not only giving us this beautiful country, but also giving us the treasures. Treasures in terms of plants, treasures in terms of animals, treasures in terms of weather, good weather, treasures in terms of lakes and rivers. We thank God for giving us wildlife. Uganda has plenty, has high biodiversity of wildlife. And one of the biodiversity that we have are the chimpanzees that are very rare to find in other countries. Very few countries have these treasures in terms of chimpanzees. In the past, we have existed peacefully, human beings and chimpanzees and other wildlife. But time has come where humans have been greedy, encroaching on the habitats of the chimpanzees and other wildlife. We have existed harmoniously in the past, but now the situation is worsening because man is greedy. And the man is not appreciating why God created this wildlife like chimpanzees. That's why we need to coexist to appreciate each other, God's creation. Because there's a way we can benefit from having these chimpanzees with us, living harmoniously. We can benefit through tourism, and because tourism is sustainable. But the current approach that man is using by cutting forests, that is short term. Within a very short time, we have lost a lot of forests. We have lost habitat for chimpanzees. And what are the consequences? These chimpanzees are looking for food. They're looking also for space. They fight back. And as they fight back, they come back to our communities. And then we are now witnessing chimpanzee-human conflict. I think you have been reading stories how chimpanzees are now even going in people's gardens because you have destroyed the forest, come and eat your fruits, eat bananas, eat what. And at times they are picking even children. And they have killed many children, especially those regions of Masindi. So it is a terrible situation. But me, I have hope. I have hope through conservation education. That's the best approach, a soft approach, not using guns, not using what, so that we change people's mindset, change people's behavior. As you work, we have a model that we are using. And that model is CUA, Connect, Understand, and Act. We want to connect people back to nature. Many people are detached. They don't appreciate God's creation. They don't appreciate these ecosystems. We want them to appreciate why God created ecosystems, created wildlife, created habitats. So we start from there by making people appreciate nature. And from there, we make them understand through giving them knowledge and skills. Once we give them knowledge and give them skills, then they will act. We want Ugandans to restore these degraded habitats for chimpanzees. We want them to plant trees. We want them to come up with other livelihood alternatives so that, because what they're doing is not sustainable. And through this, we have developed as UA programs, conservation education programs, working with other stakeholders, including the wildlife clubs. We needed to revamp and expand the wildlife clubs throughout this country so that young people grow up appreciating these treasures that God gave us. But also, we are working with other stakeholders like Jane Goodall Institute through their program called Roots and Shoots, engaging young people so that when they grow up, they should be good ambassadors. Some of us who have aged, we have become very responsible. Maybe we were not exposed to conservation education. But we don't want young people to make mistakes that old people are making right now. We should restore habitats and live harmoniously and benefit from these treasures that God has given us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. You have ably led us into agreeing that the humans are the ones that have to play a bigger role than the chimpanzees. If I sum up your discussion, after all, even God gave us power to superintend over the wild. However, I'm excited because you said there's hope through CE, through stakeholder involvement, and I wish to bring on board my sister Slovia here, because David did speak about all these areas and say, yes, we need people to have a mindset change. But mindset change involves other ways. You don't just have to give people one option. You talk to us as humans, as people in the community. What options then do you give us? How do we, as you will, come on board? Are there any options? Are there any activities or programs that you are exploring to try and fulfill and put in practice what David just spoke about?
Thank you, moderator. Yeah, as you've clearly stated it, and following our theme, human-chimpanzee coexistence amidst increasing human population. This is a very good indicator that's why we are receiving so many chimpanzees here at UWEC. At least every year, we receive at least 2 chimpanzees, and we rescue them from different areas. And the number has not gone down. The number keeps on increasing. So that shows that we have a big role to play as UWEC, as a conservation organization. We cannot sit and keep receiving chimpanzees here at UWEC. So that's why we had to come up with different programs. For example, here at UWEC, we have Chimp Connect program. This aims that we go back to those communities where we receive or where we rescue these chimpanzees from to find out what is happening. Why do we keep receiving chimpanzees from Kasese district? Why do we keep rescuing chimpanzees from Chibare? And don't think that we get these chimpanzees or from people's home. These chimpanzees, you find them under different situations. Others are confiscated, others you get them at the airport, others are abandoned in the wild. So you find these chimpanzees, we rescue them from different situations, and that's why we have to go back and sensitize these people. We have to go back and we show them that we are here. So in case you get challenges with chimpanzees around this area, UWEC is here to rescue them and give them another chance. So the reason we are involving now the community is that we need to reduce on the number that we are rescuing here. Every year we keep rescuing chimpanzees. So we need to reduce, at least we need to go like for 5 years when UWEC has not rescued any chimpanzees. And how can we do this? It is not easy as we think because of the increasing chimpanzee slates. As we are discussing here, habitat destruction is one of the leading slates why we have so many chimpanzees here at UWEC. When you see them, maybe like, why can't you release these animals back into the wild? But where do we release them back? Of course, some have been released back, but others are not able to survive back into the wild because we rescue them when they are totally very young, between 0 to 5, and such animals are not able to survive back into the wild. So that's why we rehabilitate them here and we use them for conservation education. But because of the slates, so UWEC has taken steps in ensuring that the numbers is being reduced, if possible to 0, by engaging the community. Currently, if you don't involve community in chimpanzee conservation or in conservation of any other animal, it is not possible. We must involve the community, we must support them, we must show them that, look here, if you see these animals moving around or if you get challenged with these animals, you can call UWEC and UWEC is here to rescue them. And maybe perhaps they will know the value of animals. Instead of killing such a chimpanzee, if they find them in their community, they can call UWEC to rescue and bring them here. And that's why we are having that mandate of rescuing and rehabilitation. So I beg to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Slovia. Slovia is one of the senior keepers here at the center who has undertaken the rehabilitation of the chimpanzees, even to the level of hand raising. To my immediate right, I have Dr. Rachel Mbabazi. At the center here, we are really lucky to have a beautiful mix in terms of gender, not just in word, but in practice. Dr. Rachel, Mr. Msingo talked about humans, being brought closer to understand the existing challenge with chimpanzees, but also the opportunities that lie therein. As manager animal and horticulture, but also most importantly as a vet, what assurance do we have? What precautions do we need to take when it comes to the coexistence of humans with wildlife? Are we safe? How safe are we in terms of disease, in terms of, from your perspective as a professional?
Thank you, Philip. I'm Dr. Mbabazi Rachel, and he asked, as we cut down the forests and as we destroy these habitats of these animals, we get exposed to things we were not exposed to before, because people were not actually living in those forests before, or if they went in, it wasn't something to stay around with for some time. But we are cutting down forests for agriculture, for other things, and we are exposing ourselves to organisms that we used not to expose ourselves to. And of course, even these animals that used not to come out of those forests, because the forests have decreased in sizes, they come out. And they, of course, most of them carry other diseases. So we have a threat of zoonotic diseases coming into the population. And I think with the outbreaks we are having these days, it should be an eye-opening for most of us, what is happening out there in the world as we keep on encroaching on these wild spaces. I just retaliate on what Manager Msingo said. There's a reason God created all these things. It's not just if you actually believe in creation. Even if you don't believe, you just see an organized system. There's a reason why everything is there. and why she should be there. It controls something to a particular extent. So if you destroy the forest, we are going to have issues, and we'll have diseases. And how long shall we keep? When they run out of the forest, if we cut them all, what are we going to do? Are we going to plant others? But we're exposing ourselves to problems that are going to keep taking our money still. Even as you do that agriculture, you'll have to, maybe an outbreak will happen. I think COVID should teach us a lesson. It should teach us a lesson not to invade some of these spaces. Yeah, for me, that's what I think. Thank you.
Dr. Rachel, I don't want to get worried. I am now in the shoes of a community member. Allay my fears. How do I understand the risk involved if I carelessly interact with some of these animals, specifically the chimpanzees? What kind of diseases are there? Probably, how can I prevent myself from catching them? But then I would like to bring you back here, once you've answered that, here at the center. What is your experience like when a chimpanzee is brought here? They talked about the rescue. And take me through when a chimpanzee arrives here. What happens?
Thank you. I'll begin with the second question. Usually when we rescue chimpanzees, even just to add on, usually the keepers or the vets will rescue. And most of those people are required to have particular vaccinations of particular diseases. We do hepatitis B, rabies, yellow fever, some of the things that we could pick up from those chimpanzees, but also some things that could also pass on to the chimpanzees, like measles and all that. So when we rescue here, all animals that come in, whether chimpanzees or anything, they have to undergo quarantine. And for the chimpanzees, the least we can do is like 90 days. And during that, we'll take samples, test for diseases, do vaccinations against other diseases, and to do that. So it will come, if it's young, it will undergo hand raising for a period of time, maybe about 4 to 5 years, then it will undergo integration into the bigger group. But there's a lot that is done, that they don't just come into contact with people, but they also, even under quarantine, there are keepers there specifically for that, and vets. Not everyone goes there. Visitors don't come in like the way they come in these other exhibits. It is quarantine. So that is how we prevent some of the spread of diseases. Just to advise the communities, please try, of course some things are hard to try, but try not to share spaces with the chimpanzees. If you have an alternative that has been provided, a water source, go that side. That may be a borehole that has been provided in your communities, not to go to the forest. If it is possible, of course sometimes it's not affordable, we are encouraging people not to go into forest to pick wood. But the way my colleagues are saying, communities, there are very many stakeholders working with communities around there to make sure there are alternatives, beehives, plantation forests where we can get firewood. If there's a source like that, we can avoid such things. But if you have, and some of our health centers also have some vaccines that can provide for you to do, like yellow fever is free, hepatitis B is free, and you tested and vaccinated. Some of them are free on our health centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rachel. At least you are now making my life easier, so that even out there, the ordinary person would know that we are wiser than the chimpanzees. Therefore, we just need to know what to do right in order to avoid the risk that may lie therein. Mr. Msingo, in your department, I know you work with schools and communities. What message would you give, especially to the young people? Because around this time of the year, at the center, you receive so many young people. And these, in the wake of the theme today, exponential population growth, my worry is that by the time they are our age, probably there would be limited land unless we reverse the cycle. What is your message to the young people today in terms of how they can play a role in ensuring the conservation and coexistence with chimpanzees?
My message to young people is that they are our future. We have a lot of hope in young people because the animals that we receive here We spend a lot of money to bring them here. We spend a lot of money to look after them. And the animals that we have here, especially even chimpanzees, they are not happy to be here. It will be better to take them back, but sometimes it's very hard. So we rather work hard as young people, as Ugandans, to maintain or protect or conserve those habitats so that we don't spend a lot of money looking after these animals when we bring them here. We would use that money to do other things, to build schools, to improve the curriculum, produce materials, but we are spending a lot of money on these animals because of the human beings who have destroyed their habitats. But also, as UWEC, we are trying our best to come up with programs in the community. One of the signature programs that we have that we are proud of is a project that we have in Makanaga, where we have a lot of wildlife, shoebills and others migratory birds. And we have created awareness, we have sensitized the community, and the community are protecting, they are policing, self-policing this wetland here. And we want to replicate these good practices, this experience that we have got from Makanaga to elsewhere, like those places like Masindi. And young people discourage even relatives and parents who are going to buy land in the forests. You see what is happening even with wetlands. People thought they're buying cheap land, but time has come, they're pushing them out of these wetlands. I'm sure in the future, those who have settled in forests, they're going to remove you from there. You start crying because you encroached the habitat of wildlife. So as young people, let us desist, let us encourage our parents to buy land elsewhere and leave those conservation areas where wildlife is. Because that's how we can sustain this country. The best, yes, they have talked about discovery of oil, the petroleum, whatever, that's good. But that's exhaustible. But through tourism, if we promote tourism, using this wildlife, the treasures, this is very sustainable, it will never get exhausted. So as young people, let us join the wildlife clubs and participate in those activities. Let us participate in tree planting. Let us participate in those projects in schools that we're introducing through the wildlife clubs. We are covering the whole country, working with the wildlife clubs of Uganda, with the Jane Goodall Institute through Roots and Shoots, with the Uganda Wildlife Authority. We are covering the country. We have been limited because we have been in Entebbe here, but as you are aware, we are building satellite centers across the country. And these are centers of excellence in terms of providing conservation education. Mbale has started with the government. I want to thank the government of Uganda for having injected in good money to build another UWEC in Mbale. We are going to build another center in Gulu. We are going to build another center in Chenjojo, and we are going to build another center in Barara, so that we provide extension services in terms of conservation education for people to appreciate why God gave us this beautiful country, the country called the Pearl of Africa, the country gifted by nature. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Clearly we see that there is effort being made to ensure that as the young people grow, the ground is softer and better for them in terms of appreciating the wildlife. Dan, I'm sure that in your line of duty here, even if you work here in Entebbe Zoo, you don't work in isolation. As alluded to by the two managers, you work with stakeholders. How, in your line of duty, this process of rescue, rehabilitation, and release of chimpanzees, which Slovia also spoke to a little bit, what transpires? What is your experience with it? Have we had any releases? Have we had success stories in rehabilitation? And as you explain this, I'm hoping that the name Zakayo comes in your answer. Because talking chimpanzees, and you don't talk about Zakayo, in Uganda, not just at the zoo, is very difficult. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Philip, and my bosses, and my colleague for. Now, coming back to what you have just said, in as far as the rehabilitation, because what that one entails the rehabilitation of the chimpanzees. The rehabilitation of chimpanzees is very categorical, and it is also done in two phases. So the animals that we have here, almost 99% of them are rescued. So they have different behaviors. So the way you rehabilitate a lion is not the way you're going to rehabilitate a chimpanzee. The way you rehabilitate a bird is not the way you're going to rehabilitate a mammal. So now the chimpanzees, being social animals and them having a very cohesive social structure, it's a little bit complex for them to be rehabilitated, especially at the restorative level of rehabilitation. When they are from the quarantine section, they have been brought up here in our section for the integration that my manager talked about. First and foremost, bring also Zakai into context. You who is going to conduct the integration, which is part of the rehabilitation, you must first acquaint yourself with the personalities and the behaviors of each chimpanzee for you to get the newly rescued one to put him with the existing troop. So now, how have we done it over the years? And I want to thank our managers, the management, for entrusting us with such risky task, for believing in us to carry out such risky tasks. And to inform the viewers, gladly, by God's grace, we have never lost any chimpanzees. There are very many captive facilities that are struggling with chimpanzees, which they have never put with others. So, because we have taken time to research about their behaviors, personalities, so this one has given us a leeway of knowing whom do we start with, who comes in first, and who comes in at a later stage. So Zakayo, him, laid a very great legacy of adopting their newly rescued chimpanzees. So how did he do that? Because Zakayo at one point in time, he was the alpha male. And one of the key qualities to become the alpha male, for it to qualify, to be passed on to have the mantle of being the alpha male, is that you must always show sympathy to the inferiors, to those ones who can't help themselves. So Zakayo helped the colleagues who were there by then to easily adopt the newly rescued chimpanzees. So almost these chimpanzees that you see over there, those ones which are between the age 15 years and above, they are passed through him. So it has been a legacy, and that's how we always celebrate him. He has been always adopting. Because chimpanzees, in as much as we have cultures, which cultures also can be traced back from our background, the chimpanzees also can be acculturated. They can develop certain traits or behavior that they can grow up with. So that's how Zakayo laid a legacy of adopting. So it has been a trend. Even these ones, when you bring in a new one, so long as we follow the rightful procedure, following all the due diligence, so it has always been easy to incorporate the newly rescued one with the existing one. So maybe to summarize on that point of the rehabilitation, to have a successful rehabilitation at the restorative level, from the quarantine to the section level, is that you must acquaint yourself with the behavior of each of those chimpanzees, how they behave. Now, the other aspect of the release, from the records that we are having, you work as successful release only 2 chimpanzees, and I'm going to explain why others have not been released. Because just as I said, that chimpanzees have a very cohesive social organization. The chimpanzees in the wild, they live as relatives. You have the uncles, the aunties, the grandparent. So it's a nucleus. It's more of a nucleus than being an extended family. So now, getting an individual from here and just taking him back in the wild, you do have adding an insult to an injury. You would have done a great disservice. Okay, I'm not saying it can't happen. Actually, those are some of the things we're trying to exploit, which needs to take time to research about. But the ones that you work hard to release, those are the individuals that the institution was sure where they were gotten from a specific communities. And one of them, to be very specific, had gotten a fractured limb. So they knew the exact community where it had been gotten from. So after treatment, this one it was taken back and released back into the wild. But over the years, we've been partnering, as you said, we have stakeholders. We have a portion of the chimpanzees that have been taken to Ngamba Island, okay? So, they are also doing well, but some of them, they are from here. So other prospects, other initiatives that we are trying to exploit is that we are conducting research about the behaviors of the chimpanzees, and then also to find out other possibilities of how possible we can have another sanctuary, maybe in the near future, maybe close to those ones which are in the wild, okay? So I think for now, that's what I can talk about that. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dan, because it's interesting when we are talking human chimpanzee coexistence. There was a picture where we had, I think, you and one of and the head keeper on the island here, two human beings in a space with chimpanzees. And I'm sure people kept wondering what is happening. And when they visit, they ask, are these chimpanzees still wild? And the assurance we give them, yes, they are still wild. And you have explained ably that, yes, it's a process. Even when you are doing integration, it's a process. You don't just get one and introduce, because they're very intelligent animals. I am curious to know from Slovenia. I'm sure that when you are supporting these initiatives to give a positive outlook to humans of our chimpanzees and other wildlife, there are interventions, the initiatives that you take. I have seen when I was walking here, I saw an outlet where there are some items that have chimpanzees on them. Is this one of the initiatives? Speak to this. Are there opportunities for people in the communities, for example, to start their own livelihood activities, initiatives, so that they appreciate the value of wildlife? What is it that you are doing as you work?
Thank you, moderator. Yes, Slovia Simwe, my name's. Yeah, here at UWEC, of course, following the increasing number of rescues that we have always got here at UWEC, right now we are talking about chimpanzees, but we don't rescue only chimpanzees, also rescue all other wild animals. So as UWEC, some of the programs or the steps they have taken to reduce on the number of rescues, perhaps that we get every year here, is the Chimp Connect program. This was launched in 2021. Some of the objectives why this program was brought here in the press was to increase awareness, to carry out habitat restoration in those areas where we have rescued these chimpanzees from. So some of the areas that were selected, these are the areas where we have gotten the highest number of chimpanzees. Of course, there are so many districts, but some were selected where this program is going to take place, and some of the activities that are going to take in these areas include the habitat restoration, and UWEC will be doing such projects in partnership with other stakeholders like Jane Goodall Institute, NFA, UWA, and so many others. So some of the activities that are within this program of Chimp Connect program, they are items or souvenirs, and you may be wondering, why should we be talking about the souvenirs here? The whole thing is, and that's why we've been having the hashtag of chimpanzee my cousin. The whole thing is to promote awareness, because we believe if you have a cup, you're taking your tea and it has a chimpanzee on it, for sure it's going to remind you that we need to protect these animals. Yeah, and if you buy something for your loved one, here we have a group of around 25 chimpanzees, some which are on the island, others which are still under quarantine, but they have names. They have names according to where we have rescued these chimpanzees from. For example, we have Rachel, we have Kasumba, we have Otim, and then you'll find some names that are so familiar. You'll be like, I'm called Otim, and then Uwek has a chimpanzee called Otim. And yes, we have a souvenir that has Otim, the chimpanzee. And then if you're called Otim, and then you feel like I need to support a certain chimpanzee at Uwek, and then you'll be like, I'm interested in supporting Otim, these are the some of the categories that you follow. You can become a parent. That is one of sponsoring, that is one of supporting chimpanzees here. You can become a guardian. You can adopt one of the chimpanzees. Most of the chimpanzees here are being adopted. And then also you can support by buying a souvenir. If you buy a souvenir with Otim, you're also supporting chimpanzees. You are doing self-conservation. Yes, because most of people here in Africa, we believe that they are only foreigners that really love the animals, and they have to become the parents. They are the one to adopt certain animals. But even here we can do it. We have so many sponsors, which are actually Africans. You could also join. And you keep your legacy. Let's say if you want to name one of the chimpanzees here, your name, let's say, for example, I'm Slovia Simwe, and I want to keep the legacy here or in conservation fraternity. So what I will do, I'll name one of the chimpanzees Slovia, and there are so many benefits that come with such a sponsor. So this is to encourage you that by doing all these things, we are not after money. We are doing self-conservation. We are promoting awareness. We are supporting these animals because they don't speak, so we are here to speak for themselves. If you do buy a souvenir, if you do sponsor, name, adopt, donate, you're all supporting conservation. And how will this help the community? Yes, because if you support one of the chimpanzees here, we believe that when you go back to your community, you're able to tell a story. Yeah, because Uwek receives visitors over the year, over 4,000 visitors, but we are not able to cover the whole country. But if you're here, we'll be glad that you are ambassador now. When you go back to your community, it'll be like if you find maybe there are these human-wildlife conflicts, people are killing animals. Of course, we understand that these animals have also been killing certain babies. But what should we do? It starts with us. It doesn't mean that you kill such an animal. It's because of the activities that we human beings are doing. Habitat destruction. If you put maize in chimpanzee's garden, the chimpanzees don't be surprised if it comes and hurts your family. Yeah, and these are some of the things that we are trying to solve by having such conversation online, so that if you're not able to reach you, you can be there for us and you can support us in different ways. So through the Chimp Connect, it was made to make sure that we go back to these communities. We ensure that these communities, they know what is taking place. They know that we have rescued these animals from their areas. And as Uwek, we have a lot on that program that is going to do support these families. Some of them are livelihood programs. For example, let's say if you go back to Kasese, that is our first district that we are likely to start with, because we have gotten more than 50% of the chimpanzees here from Kasese district. So some of the activities that we are going to do, as I mentioned earlier, apart from the habitat restoration, we shall do the livelihood program. For example, we shall carry out beekeeping. Those people that are living near such areas, we shall support them by doing certain activities. Let's say if we supply them beehives and we have the land, and then we will provide the necessities for you to carry out such program or such a project. If we harvest this honey, we can sell it, or we can provide the market for your honey. And then the money that you get, you can support your family, you can take your children to school. Also, you can use it to help other neighboring areas. So there are so many activities that are going to be done. Of course, we shall do this through with the other involved stakeholders, as I said earlier. But all this is aimed at creating awareness, carrying out sensitization as we offer conservation, as we offer education through conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Slovia, because we are talking about coexistence, so I thought it was very pertinent for us to relate and see if there are options for the communities out there. But also, I am keen to know if we were to share with the community out there, Dr. Rachel Mbabazi, you work with wildlife, you've done this for many years, you work with chimpanzees, educate our people there just a little bit about the common behaviors of chimpanzees. What are those key behavior traits they might need to be aware of? So that if a chimpanzee does something, they need to know that's a natural behavior. So then they have to adjust the way they respond in terms of what do they feed on, what are breeding, what are the breeding behaviors, in terms of also how they sleep. Do they sleep anyway? Talk to us about this. What if they're breeding? How is it done? Generally in the wild, and then you bring it down here to the zoo.
Thank you, Philip. What can I say? The general behavior of a chimpanzee. Of course, in the forest, usually they will nest in the evening. Of course, towards around 7, they'll nest. Every day they make a nest, and that is like breaking branches and finding a tree and nesting there. And they'll nest in groups. But most times, each chimpanzee will make a nest and they'll go down. In the morning, they'll break through, leave those nests, and move to find food and all that. But what happens is where we have the conflict. Of course, I told you as the forests break, and maybe you plant palatable food close to their habitats, they'll come out, because sometimes it is easier to get, but also most of the forests have been cut down, maybe with a palatable species. So they'll come out, maybe get the maize, and where the conflict comes in, maybe the people will try to chase them out. And that's how most people get attacked and all that. And then the women will go to the gardens, and of course they are digging and they leave their child there. It's a natural behavior of some of these female chimps. They want to try and take the baby, and of course in that they may cause harm to the baby and all that. And of course if they find other individuals, they may attack the baby and you lose the baby. So that's how most of their community, almost, if you look at us and the chimps, we are 98.7% the genes, we are close. So the behaviors will be similar. And like how you go in the evening to sleep, they will nest in the evening. They will find food during the day as you dig and find food. So conflict comes in when we cut forests or plant palatable species close by, and you're trying to chase these chimps. And the more they know, they get into contact with humans, the more they know actually they are stronger than you. Most of all the chimps are stronger than us. An average chimp will be like as strong as 5 men. And that's what happens. And the more we get into contact, the more they know. And that's why most of the time it's even hard to release back some of these chimps that we've hand raised. They know they're stronger than humans. So if they get out, there'll be a danger. And most times we don't have those forests that are huge enough that an animal won't get out, because they've been used to people feeding them or what. So they'll find this food. So that is why it's hard. As we cut down forests, there's not enough space where you can release a chimp and roams and gets food. So that's how we get into conflict with them most times. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mbabazi. You notice that it's important for us to become aware. Once you know as a human being, it becomes much easier for you to know how to live alongside another, even if it's a human being, but in this context, the chimpanzees. We know for a fact that there's a lot of deforestation going on, and as rightfully so said, we need to ensure that the habitat for these chimpanzees is restored, is where there is increasing population. Regardless of the pressure, we have to find solutions so that we reduce on the number of chimpanzees that come here. Mr. Dan Mirembe, I am eager to know, yes, you are talking coexistence between humans and the chimpanzees in the midst of this ever-increasing population growth. But how are you managing population here of the chimpanzees at the zoo? How do you ensure this conflict resolution? Are there conflicts anyway? Because we are talking conflicts between humans and chimpanzees. How is it here when we are taking care of these chimpanzees?
All right, thank you very much. Of course, as said by there's an old adage that there is always a blessing in everything that is seemed to be bad. We want to thank God for your work, because your work has has given a second chance for the survival of the chimpanzees that we have here. Imagine if your work wasn't there, these chimpanzees that we have rescued over the years, where would they have gone? Okay? Now, to inform maybe the viewers, there is always a strong bond between the mother and the baby. So whenever you see one baby in the hands of humanity, you have to know that the mother was killed, that first and foremost. Number two, because of the cohesive social organization, like about 5 chimpanzees who were killed. So on average, you have like about 6 chimpanzees that were killed whenever we see one baby chimp in the hands of humanity. It's one of the things that people have to know. So now, this institution has played a very, very, very critical role that have made Ugandans and people all over the world to appreciate the value of conserving biodiversity, and then also to make our animals be happy. This institution, maybe to add on, is very accredited, is the best captive facility, conservation captive facility in East Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa. Why? Because the aspect of animal welfare here is very, very, very paramount, is always forefronted. So one of the things that we have done to manage the population, because we keep on receiving, we are like a hospital that receives that doesn't discharge. And this is not our option, as my manager said. You receive an orphan, a baby, 3 years, 2 months. There's another one one that we received was around 3 months old. They had to bottle feed the baby. Now she's old. You cannot take her back in the wild because you don't know where she was gotten from. Others also intercepted at our porous borders. So you see, but by God's grace, we've used these animals as flagship species to teach people about the value of conserving biodiversity. We have so many schools that come here. Actually, this institution receives very many number of people from the report that we had, 400,000. And our projection, I think the next 1 year is 600,000 people coming to visit the zoo. So when they come here, our role is that to educate them, to transform their mind, so that the aspect of coexistence, as Nelson Mandela said, it starts with the mindset transformation. When people come and see, and they are taught, they will appreciate. When they see us looking after them dearly, as even better than some other people, how we look after them, give them food, the details about what they eat, people will also have a mindset transformation. People will get to know that, hey, in as much as for me I see this animal as an animal, in quotation, but there are some people who value it is something very, very of a great value. So one of the ways we've tried to mitigate that and to ensure that there's coexistence, first and foremost, started with us, okay? Because you have to do this work when you don't have the passion for them. And so then the other aspect is to stop the increasing numbers, because we keep on receiving, we don't discharge. Through the veterinary advice, we thought it wise to put some implants in them to deter them from naturally breeding. So the implants deter them from breeding, because on average, you keep on, every year, we always rescue a chimpanzee. So that's one of the ways how we have managed numbers here, and then also to teach people who come here and visit them, to teach them about their value in our ecosystems, because in other places that you go to, people will be very stubborn. and throw all sorts of food to them. And some of the food that they would throw to them would be very poisonous. So that's one of the things that we've been doing as far as maintaining their numbers is concerned and ensuring that there is coexistence. So we use these animals, chimpanzees, as flagship species to teach, as a representative of those ones who are in the world, to teach people about the value of conserving biodiversity, and then also people to appreciate the value of biodiversity that our country has. That's all, sir.
Thank you very much, Dan, for the elaborate submission. And that brings me to Mr. Musingo David, who I know sits on some international bodies. Tell me how these, which bodies they are anyway, and then how they play a role in supporting the conservation agenda, of course, including the chimpanzees. And after your submission, David, I'll give opportunity to each one of us to make their final word, make your final submission, speaking to the theme of the day, so that our people out there are able to appreciate the importance of coexisting with the chimpanzees and the wild in general. David.
Thank you, Philip. I have been fortunate to serve on international committees that are in charge of conserving wildlife, especially wildlife in captivity. I sit on the Pan-African Association of Zoos and Aquarium on the executive committee representing East, Central, and West Africa. So I'm an executive member of PAZA. But also my term has just ended with the International Zoo Educators. I have been representing Africa and my term ended. I also been sitting on WAZA committee, on the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and the term has just ended, but I have served very well. And I have been a judge on those awards, the Conservation Awards, the Environmental Sustainability Awards for over 5 years, and I think I did well. What I can say, my experience sitting on these international committees is I have brought a lot of knowledge and information back home to see how we can improve how we manage wildlife here. We developed a strategy at WAZA. I participated in developing conservation education strategy that promotes conservation education in captive facilities like Uganda Wildlife Education Center. And you are going to see a lot of changes here. I'm happy that the center, UEC, is being revamped. In terms of facilities, we are putting up a lot of facilities through the World Bank, SEDE project, but also it comes along with the information that we are going to display, that we are going to produce and display and distribute some of these materials to schools, to the community. Because of the strategy that was developed at WAZA, the conservation education strategy. And UEC should be a model. In fact, UEC is the best zoo in East, Central, and West Africa. What we are now working hard is to be the best zoo in Africa, especially that we have revamped the facilities here. In 2 or 3 months, we are going to open these facilities. And that's the reason why even we have increased the entry fees, because we developed the center, we have added more products here to match up with new developments and whatever. We need more money to maintain these facilities. So the public should bear with us, should appreciate our increment, our fee increment, but also they should appreciate the developments that are going on. Those who have not been here for the last 1 year, please come and see. You'll appreciate that we are moving in a positive direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Musingo David, for your submission. I'm sure that we are tapping very strongly in your experience at those various international platforms. Final word from each one of us. I will start with Dan over there and then get back to Dr. Rachel here.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Katabulawa and all the viewers who have been watching us. I want one word is that let us conserve, appreciate, and celebrate our closest relatives, the chimpanzees. Their lives matter in as much as also ours matter. Thank you very much.
All viewers, the hashtag is chimpanzee my cousin. The moment you say chimpanzee my cousin for around 3 times, you will feel that chimpanzees are our cousins. So therefore, we need to conserve and protect them jealously, because the number keeps on going down every day. As it is estimated in Uganda, we are remaining with only around 5,000 chimpanzees according to WCS, and that shows that the number is going down. So we need to step up and we need to do more, conserve and protect the remaining individuals. I thank you. Happy World Chimpanzee Day.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It is our tradition to celebrate these days, especially the wildlife days on our calendars. And this time we have the World Chimpanzee Day, and we are celebrating it. Why do we celebrate? Is to talk stock of what we have done, to look at the illustrious journey that we have moved in terms of conservation of chimpanzees, and what we are doing to tell the public what we are doing and what we plan to do. For example, we are going to build a Jane Goodall Center here, the Roots and Shoots. We are mobilizing resources led by Jane Goodall herself, Dr. Jane Goodall, to build the best center here of Roots and Shoots, where young people are going to come and retool them, like taking them through a machine, so that by the time they come out of UX, they're a good product. People who are responsible, people who are patriotic to this country, people who will conserve wildlife, especially the chimpanzees. Thank you.
Thank you, viewers and my colleagues. And as we are here, please, the take home, we need to coexist. And not just to say, I think you see all of us here. If it wasn't for the chimps and some of these animals, maybe we wouldn't have jobs. And look at that as your child back there who will need a job in the future in tourism. It employs people who are over 3,000. Then the tour guides and all that. It has employed very many people. Just look at your child in future. Maybe it will be a job for them. So please, we need all these animals. And there's a reason why God put them there. Thank you for viewing, and be an ambassador out there.
Thank you all. My simple message to all of us, wherever you are, is that it's important for us. After all, as humans, we are wiser than any living thing. So we need to use our wisdom, and since we know more, we need to know that we should be the ones to take the right decision. Let's use our environment more responsibly. We will sign off in a very unique way. I'll ask my colleague who spends more time around these chimpanzees to sign off with a panthoot chimpanzee style. So Dan, you say bye in a chimpanzee style to our audience.
I don't know if our viewers are very ready. I'm going to ask, with all due respect, my bosses to prepare the throat.